If you live outside of Canada and you want to set up your business as a corporation in Canada, this is the video for you. The best part is that you don't need to know anyone in Canada, and you don't need to have a Canadian address either. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and if you don't set up your business the right way, you could end up facing serious tax and legal problems later on. Basically, you have three options. Option 1 is to do it yourself by directly sending all the required documents and forms to the Canadian government. Option 2 is to hire an accountant or a business lawyer to do it for you. And option 3, my personal favorite, is to use a professional online service. Doing it yourself requires going to the Government of Canada's website and reading through tons of confusing information. There are a lot of steps you have to follow, and unless you're a lawyer or accountant, you're probably going to get stuck along the way. Hiring a lawyer or accountant works, but it can easily cost you thousands of dollars in fees, which is money you could have invested in your business. I recommend using a service like Incorporate Canada, and in this video, I'll walk you through the exact steps you need to follow to complete your application. There's a link in the description if you want to follow along. Once you click that link, it will take you to their homepage. Click on Incorporation for Foreigners. You'll see two options here. The first is Federal Incorporation. To qualify, you need two things. At least 25% of your directors must be Canadian residents, and you need a Canadian registered office address. Now, a director is the person who oversees the management of the corporation. So if you're the only director and you're not Canadian, you don't meet that 25% requirement. You'd need to add at least one Canadian resident as a director alongside yourself. And just so you know, this rule only applies to directors. Your shareholders and officers don't need to be Canadian at all. For the address, it just needs to be a real physical Canadian address. No P.O. boxes. It can be a friend or family member's address. If you meet both of those requirements, go ahead and click the Federal Incorporation for Foreigners link. But honestly, if you're a foreigner with no connections to Canada, you most likely won't meet either of those requirements. In that case, click the BC Incorporation link instead. British Columbia is the only province in Canada that doesn't have any residency requirements. So anyone from anywhere in the world can incorporate there. Pick whichever option applies to you, and let's continue with the rest of the application. For this video, I'll assume you want to incorporate in British Columbia, so I'll click that. So here, just fill out your contact info following the formats that are shown. Make sure to include your country and area code. Enter your company website URL if you have one, but if not, don't worry since it's not required. Now for your corporation's name, you have three options. The first is a numbered name. BC will simply assign your corporation a number followed by BC Ltd, something like 873524 BC Ltd. It's the fastest and simplest option. And if branding isn't a priority for your business, just go with a numbered corporation since it's easier to set up. The second option is choosing an actual name for your corporation. If you go this route, Incorporate Canada will do the name search and get it pre-approved by the government for you. There's no service fee for this, but there is a $31.50 government fee that Incorporate Canada will collect from you on behalf of the Canadian government. The third option is if you've already done your own name search and have the reservation number. In that case, just select this option and enter your reservation number. For this video, I'll select the numbered corporation option. If you want me to make a separate video showing you how to fill out the application for a named corporation, drop a comment and let me know. Click Next to go to Step 2 of the application. Now, since you're registering your corporation in BC, you can see that British Columbia is automatically selected for you. Now here you need to describe the kind of shares your corporation will issue. This sounds complicated, but don't worry, it's simpler than it sounds. A share is basically a unit of ownership in your corporation. And every incorporated business in Canada must issue at least one class of shares. Think of it like slicing up ownership of your business into pieces. You have two options here. The first option is one class of shares. This simply means your corporation is authorized to issue an unlimited number of common shares. If you're a solo founder or you just want to keep things simple, this is the option for you. Select this and move on. The second option is to insert your own custom description. But for most people, option 1 is all you will ever need. Now, from the type drop-down, select whether you are an individual or a body corporate. Then, fill in your name. If you have more than one incorporator, you can add them here by clicking that Add button. And if you make a mistake, just hit Remove and start again. The effective date is just the date you want your corporation to officially come into existence. You can choose today's date, which means your corporation becomes active the moment your application is approved. Or you can choose a future date if you want your corporation to start on a specific day, like the beginning of a new month or a new fiscal year. Just keep in mind that you cannot set an effective date that is before the date you submit your application. So today or any future date is fine, but nothing in the past. The date format here is year, month, day. So, for example, May 20th, 2026 would be entered as 2026-05-20. You can simply choose today's date for this, unless you have a specific reason for choosing a date in the future. Click Next. Now you need to enter your registered office address in British Columbia. This is where your corporate records will be kept and where any official documents will be sent. Anything sent to this address is legally assumed to have been received by your corporation, so make sure it's an address where you'll actually receive mail. It must be a real BC address and no PO boxes. Now I know what you're thinking. I said at the start of the video that you don't need a Canadian address for this. And that's true. You can simply rent a UPS mailbox, which gives you a real physical street address in BC without actually being there. I'll leave a link for a mailbox service I found in the description below. Once you set up your mailbox, you can enter its address here. Keep in mind that this address will be publicly visible in the government's corporation's online database. So even if you have a personal Canadian address or a friend's address you could use, a UPS mailbox is still the safest option if you're worried about privacy. Fill in the street address, city, and postal code. The province is already set to British Columbia and the country to Canada, so you don't need to touch those. Now add your directors. Most likely, it's just going to be you. Fill in your first name, last name, country, and address. Make sure whatever address you enter is somewhere you can actually receive legal documents. And just like before, I'd recommend using your UPS mailbox address here to keep things consistent and private. Once you're done, click Next. Now it's just asking whether your company uses a translated version of its name outside of Canada. So select the appropriate option. For most people, the answer will be no. Click Next and you're almost done. Check the box to confirm that the information you entered is accurate. Select one of the boxes for how you found out about Incorporate Canada. Since you're watching this video, you can select Other and type YouTube. Now, based on all the options you selected, you'll see the final price. I found this to be a lot cheaper than hiring a lawyer or accountant to do the setup for you. But if your situation is complicated and you need a very specific corporate structure, you're probably better off working with a professional directly. If everything looks good, click Submit, and it will take you to the payment page where you can pay with either a credit card or through PayPal. Once you make the payment, you're all done. Check your email regularly for any updates. Your corporation should be officially on its way to being created and registered in British Columbia, Canada. You'll find links to all the services I talked about in this video down in the description. Thanks for watching.